Hello, I'm going to read two short poems for Halloween. Two poems which both very much have their roots in childhood. The first one is a poem which is familiar, I think, to every school child, certainly British school child of my generation. Subsequent generations I can't really speak to, or indeed school children in America or other countries. But it was a poem that was really always studied by children at school in England, I guess in the way that the Raven is in America. And it made a big impression on me the first time I heard it, and it stayed with me always. It's a very strange, elliptical ghost poem with ghosts that we never hear, we never see, and a mystery that is never explained. It was written by Walter de la Mare, English writer, who was born in 1873 in Kent, which is in the southeast of England, in the London area. And he died in Middlesex, in Twickenham, in fact, which is nowadays kind of a suburb of London. And he died within my lifetime in 1956. And the poem is called The Listeners. "Is there anybody there?" said the traveller, knocking on the moonlit door, and his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest's ferny floor, and a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveller's head. And he smote upon the door again a second time. "Is there anybody there?" he said. But no one descended to the traveller. No head from the leaf-fringed sill leaned over and looked into his grey eyes where he stood, perplexed and still. But only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening, in the quiet of the moonlight, to that voice from the world of men, stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveller's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved, cropping the dark turf, neath the starred and leafy sky. For he suddenly smote on the door even louder, and lifted his head. "Tell them I came, and no one answered, that I kept my word," he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spake fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house, from the one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, and the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone. And the second poem is a poem that I knew as a boy. I didn't even really think that it was written by anybody. I thought it was just more really like a nursery rhyme, and I only ever knew the first part of it, only ever heard really the first part of it. But it is a poem written by a woman, Mare Howlitt, who was born in the very last year of the 18th century, 1799, and she lived through almost the whole of the 19th century, dying in 1888. And I think it's a poem which, at least in its title and its beginning, will be familiar to nearly all of you, even if you don't really know, like myself, until recently, the whole of the poem. The Spider and the Fly. "Will you walk into my parlour, said the spider to the fly. "'Tis the prettiest little parlour that ever you did spy. The way into my parlour is up a winding stair, and I have many curious things to show when you are there." "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "to ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can ne'er come down again." "I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed?" said the spider to the fly. "There are pretty curtains drawn around. The sheets are fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in." "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "for I've often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed." Said the cunning spider to the fly, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please to take a slice?" "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see." "Sweet creature," said the spider, "you're witty, and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings! How brilliant are your eyes! I've a little looking-glass upon my parlour shelf. If you'll step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself." "I thank you, gentle sir," she said, "for what you please to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day." The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon come back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead." Alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, hearing his wily flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head. Poor foolish thing! At last up jumped the cunning spider, and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stair, into his dismal den, within his little parlour, but she ne'er came out again. And now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words I pray you ne'er give heed. Unto an evil counsellor close heart and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.